Hello. I am delighted to be here. I haven't been on live for a while, so I'm excited to connect with you all. And I'm hoping you're going to come join me to hear more about what hemp-based products can do for you and for your loved one. So I'm going to bring Katherine Golden on in just a few minutes, and we'll get going right away. There have been a number of questions that have come in to both of us, so we want to make sure that we address those questions and leave some time at the end for any new ones that come up. So thank you all for coming on, and I always love to see your hearts. I've missed you all, so I'm delighted to be here. But we're going to get right into it because we've got a lot to cover, and let's get the show on the road, all right? I believe Katherine is going to request to join, and as soon as she does, then we'll get going. So I thought actually what I would do is share my journey more specifically, because a lot of times people have asked me, how did you get started using these products with Ben? What's it been like? Because it's been a journey, like most things are, with this experience. And I want to, give our details, but also encourage you to get the support and guidance that someone like a team of Katherine's nurses can offer you. So hello from Ontario, Canada. Hello, Barb. Hello, Bev. Hello. Who else is coming on here? Oh, so grateful to see you all and to, oh my gosh, just again, have a live experience with you. So let me just take a moment here and see if we can bring Katherine on. There she is. She'll be on in just a minute, and then I'll have a chance to, hello, there she is.
Hello, I'm here.
I'm so glad to see you. I was thinking we're going to have to give you an award like the SNL award, like most frequently
Oh, yes.
forecast.
That would be great. Yes, I love being here. I'm already seeing such great responses from your community, so I can't wait for today.
Yes, well, let me just, for those of you that haven't had a chance to meet Katherine before, she's a registered nurse with 27 years of experience and is a cannabis nurse educator. And one of the things that I think, Katherine, if you agree, we both want to do is help to remove the stigma around even the word cannabis. I mean, this is, I say, plant medicine, and it's been so incredibly helpful for us. And I want to thank you for all that you've done to help to educate people on what it's all about. And the thing that, again, I'm always so impressed, that you formed this organization, Leaf 411. It's a group of independent nurses. It's a nonprofit organization that really is all about education. And that's why, as I said, that's how we got hooked up. I actually, came in through the door of Leaf 411, leaf411.org, and started to get some guidance early on in our journey, and it's been invaluable. So again, I can't thank you enough. It's really thanks to you that we're getting the kind of results that we are. So as I was starting to say right before you came on, I'm going to share a little bit more and use the context of my journey with Ben, to kind of structure our discussion, but answer some questions along the way that have come in from our community. And please put your questions in the comments as you go. I'm going to hopefully do a better job of catching those. But if we don't answer them, just keep putting them in the comments until it rolls up and we get a chance to answer your questions, because that's what this is all about. So, Katherine, I was, as you well know, and this is a topic that I think is on a lot of people's minds. My husband is a musician, Ben, as many people know, and he used cannabis kind of as part of his lifestyle from a young age. It never impaired him. It actually, I think, addressed some underlying anxiety, ADD, maybe even a touch of autism that was always there. It actually helped him to function. And what was really intense about our circumstances is that it was when he stopped using cannabis that all these symptoms of dementia blew up in our faces. Now, so one of the questions that I have up front is that how should somebody somebody, approach this, given like if their loved one did use cannabis in the past versus perhaps if they didn't use it in the past? So let's start there.
Yeah, that's a great starting question because like you started saying in the beginning, cannabis, CBD, THC, marijuana, people use all kinds of different terms for it now. And whatever makes you feel most comfortable is how most people can start the conversation, especially with their loved ones or family members. I've had a lot of caregivers that will start referring it to just CBD at first, just to test the waters
Yeah.
and start talking to their loved ones about it, saying, gosh, I'd love to introduce some CBD. And then later on, find that education that it really takes incorporating, those small doses of THC in there to really start modifying some of these behavior challenges we're seeing with dementia patients. So, however you like to refer to it is kind of what makes you comfortable. And then looking at your loved one's past use, like you're saying, what happens if they were consistent users versus never trying it before? When we talk to anybody, that's one of the questions we ask, hey, do you know about, your loved one's youth? Like, did they ever use it? Now, when they did they ever say they liked it? Or did they say, oh no, I didn't like it. It made me paranoid. That gives us a little window into their tolerance level. Kind of give a little sneak peek so we know how to guide someone. But typically, if somebody like Ben was already a consumer, we knew it worked really well for him. We just needed to find the right doses of each of the different parts of the plant. Really, that's what it was. We already had, a good idea that this was doing something for
Yeah.
him because he used it during his life, and that's
Yeah.
significant to know. And so, but even if someone hasn't used it before and has no idea, I just had someone last night that said, I don't think my dad's ever touched it, and that's okay. But that's when we can start using doses that are even smaller than the small doses that are in the formulations, because there's no harm with going too low. Sometimes what I tell people, I just was on a radio interview and I said, actually, if they get no response, that's a great response
Yes.
because then that alleviates that fear that, oh, this was going to do
You're
something
right.
the scary or something
Or
intense.
whack them.
It actually, right, right. It's when they use a dose and they get nothing. I'm like, that's good. That's good. That means we started low enough and we didn't miss that window. So either way, I think it's ideal for both. But you're right, Diane. It's good to explore if they've been consumers before or have they not.
Yeah. And I think, and one of the things, and let me just, I want to make sure that people know how to get a hold of your, organization, leaf411.org. Tell me the phone number again because that escapes me.
Yes, 844 LEAF 411.
Eight.
So 844-532-3411. Yeah, we were lucky we got LEAF 411 in there as a number. Wow, I was so
Yeah.
excited 6 years ago when I locked the number down. So hopefully that's easy to remember. 844 LEAF 411.
Right. And I'm going to send it out. Actually, if you haven't already signed up for my newsletter, everybody, I think what I'm going to do is actually post the link to this live in case you can't stay on for the whole thing. I'll put a link in the newsletter along with with your organization information, so that way you don't have to worry about missing anything, and I'll send it out. And you can just sign up for my newsletter. It's free. DementiaCoachDiane.com is my website. So just sign up for the newsletter. You'll get all the info you need. So one of the things that I know we've talked about before, but is so important, is when they call and book a consult with your organization, is to talk first about the symptoms that they most want to address,
Yes,
right? And,
correct.
and like start with one and kind of go from there. So for us, for instance, so one of the things that happened when Ben stopped using anything was that he stopped sleeping.
Hmm.
And it was, and of course, that can lead to so many other issues. And so many of our loved ones living with dementia have problems with sleep, And so let's talk a little bit about that. So let's say they start at, what's considered a low starting dose, and they're not getting any results. Like, how do you start to make dosage adjustments? What do you suggest they do?
Yeah, that's That's a great question, and usually one of the top questions people ask, like, how do I adjust this? That's, what we start out telling people is that's the beautiful thing with cannabis is that you have full autonomy, to start as low as you can possibly start and then slowly increase from there. It's good, and there's cautions, right? The great thing is that you can increase. You're at home being the caregiver. You can increase as you see fit versus having to schedule a doctor's appointment, waiting a month or two to get in, then asking them, "Hey, I need a dose adjustment," and then waiting for that new prescription to come in. Beautiful thing with cannabis is that you can get it delivered to your home. You can go to a dispensary, whatever, wherever you get your cannabis, and you can adjust it. We always caution to adjust it very slowly. So, increase slowly, adjust always very slowly. So we like to guide as nurses with, if someone is super cautious, to only start with a quarter dose of whatever that suggested serving size is. Each state is different. Online products have different suggested serving size. Always good to get guidance. That's why we're here, and you can call us anytime, schedule an appointment, and we'll guide you through this. But always start with the smallest dose that provides the most benefit. So you really want to start low and then work up. We're all kind of used to more is better, and that's not true with cannabis. More is not better with cannabis, as you know, Diane, with Ben.
Well, it was really, that was so significant for us. And one of the things, so just so you all know, I was comfortable using THC because Ben had used it in the past. And when he wasn't sleeping and he was so agitated, I'm like, let's dose him. Well, I ended up getting gummies online. And at the time, this is where you do have to be careful about the companies that you choose to use, because they were promoting the THC CBN combo as good for sleep, and it was a calming effect in the body. So I'm like, okay, great. Well, and then they told us, well, it's short acting, so you want to give it to him every 2 hours. So I was giving him gummies like every 2 hours. Well, it turns out that you can develop a tolerance to THC, and it has what they call a biphasic effect. So you can go from it helping anxiety to it causing anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in our case. And it really wasn't until I hooked up with your team, Katherine, and then also started to use the Healer products, that we found out that actually giving Ben a tolerance break. And it was a little scary to do because it was helping some, but we actually ended up giving him like a 36-hour break from anything, and then starting at a lower dose of THC and adding the CBG. Now so let's talk a little bit about some of the different, we'll say the lesser, I don't, they're not lesser, maybe,
Minor.
The minor, yeah, cannabinoids, because, and again, to reinforce, it's the THC that has the psychoactive effect. It does seem like you need some THC, especially for those dementia-related behaviors, but not maybe as much as you think. Mm-hmm. And then it's the combination with some of these minor cannabinoids that can really help. So can you speak a little bit to, like, for instance, the CBD versus the CBG, and how that can enhance the effects of the THC?
Sure, yes. So, what we call are two major parts of the plant, and we call them cannabinoids. So, everybody's heard of CBD, cannabidiol, and THC. But then now you're starting to see different letters coming out, and you're like, oh, CBG, that one's cannabigerol, and that's the one you just spoke of. We call that minor cannabinoid because it's not as abundant. And so people don't really know of them that well, but they're starting to see them online. They're starting to see them in the dispensaries. And so they've been asking questions about those. When, the best way to consume this plant is the way that it was made in nature. So with having all of its parts, there's even more parts than these cannabinoids. Gosh, there's terpenes, which is kind of like essential oils, and there's flavonoids and so forth. And when you get more of the parts of the plant together instead of just one, and that's what a pharmaceutical is. So a pharmaceutical just takes a synthetic and makes one. It's just one target. When you've got cannabis, you've got all these beautiful other parts. So what we've seen, and the evidence shows, and that's what we always talk about, is the actual scientific evidence that's out there shows that when you have the combination of more of the parts of the plant together, or certain ones, you can actually target different challenges that are happening in the body. So for example, like you said, well, what about CBD with THC? Usually practitioner will say, oh, why don't you use both if you have, say, like pain or aches and pain, body aches, because the THC works on one thing, works on receptors, same as narcotics do, and CBD helps balance the body, and brings that anxiety down and is a great anti-inflammatory, which usually accompanies pain. So now you see why putting them together is really ideal. Same with CBG, cannabigerol, and THC. THC is wonderful for sleep. Cannabigerol also has evidence showing that it can have a sedating effect but also enhance mood. So you've got those going on. So you have that blend at night. Beautiful blend. So it's the blends of the formulas that really start making a difference. And then, as some people have heard, CBD can actually temper a little bit of THC. Almost acts, like we say very simplistically, acts a little bit like a dimmer switch to some of those THC potential side effects. Just dims it a little bit.
Yeah. So you do have formulations that you recommend, say for daytime versus nighttime, and I know for us, we use the same combination, just slightly different dose. We use a slightly higher dose when we get to our nighttime doses. But what would you suggest for somebody, let's say that they, start with what's supposed to be like a daytime dose, and then it makes their individual like really sleepy instead of revive them,
Yeah.
which is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I've had that actually. I had a caregiver call and she said, gosh, my husband gets so sleepy on the day dose. She said, and the night dose just sometimes doesn't work for him. I said, well, that's okay. We need to listen to his body. So if his body is telling us that the combination of CBD and THC actually helps relax him so much that he's sedated, let's use that at night. So there's no absolutes with cannabis. There's no like, oh, you can't use this formula during the nighttime because it says day on it, or you can't use the nighttime during the day because, oh, that's going to make you sleepy. Some people actually have an opposite response, and they'll actually be a little bit more alert or awake. Cannabis works differently with all of our bodies. We are all, all of us humans are very different. So we really listen to how it's affecting that loved one and then adjust it from there. So the most important takeaway from this is, if it says day on it and you think, gosh, this is so much better at night, I wish I could give it at night, give it at night. It's okay. We listen to what the body is telling us.
Yeah. And just as you're referring, and I want to at least acknowledge, that Healer is one brand, of getting, where you can get the products. They do actually have it beautifully packaged for daytime and nighttime, as we've just been discussing. So in this case, they're gummies, so you can actually adjust the dose, by giving a half, by giving a quarter. If you have any concerns about starting your loved ones, start really low. And as Katherine said, if they're not getting a response, that's good. That means you've got a window, to increase it. But this makes it very easy for, for the caregiver. But it's not the only way to give, these products. I actually, what has evolved for us, and this is where, again, it can be an evolution. So I want to encourage people, like, don't give up too soon. I've had a lot of people say, like, well, I tried it, it didn't work. And I would say, when I first tried, as I said, I was just getting gummies online, and I must confess, I went for the cheapest price. It's hard sometimes not to be price oriented, because of all the expenses we're trying to deal with. But really, it was, if you're not getting results, then it's really not worth it, And what has evolved for us is I ended up using a tincture and I got Ben's medical marijuana card and my caregiver card, and that's live in the state of Pennsylvania, so that's what we had to do. And in order for me to pick up the dose of THC that he needs, I get it from the local dispensary, but they don't actually make the CBG, which has been so helpful for him. So I do get that from Healer, and so I have two tinctures. I put them together, and in the spoon. It's so cute because Ben will take it and go like, yum, and I'm like, okay. you know? So I'm not sure, but it's so that's what has evolved for us. And I say evolved because it took us about I don't want to discourage anybody, but it took us about a year to finally get it right. And Ben's got Lewy body dementia. It's challenging, but we are getting. I mean, he slept last night from 7:30 until like 5:30 in the morning, and I was like, wow.
Wow.
I mean, that was like incredible. And I shared a video this morning. He was, he's just was Mr. Chill. So I'm not saying it's every single night, everybody. I'm not saying that he doesn't still pace. I'm not saying he doesn't get agitated. But to your point too, his mood, he never actually gets aggressive or angry. And so, some of these, let's talk about some of the dementia related behaviors that you have seen um, helped by these products, Catherine, because I know there are some people that are just at their wits' end. So,
Yeah.
what kinds of symptoms have you seen, turn around?
Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah, let's talk about that. All the symptoms, the typical symptoms that we see with dementia that start progressing over time, can be anything from anger, frustration, then it gets to worry, then it becomes pacing, it becomes wandering, it can be abusive behavior, which is very unfortunate, why we really need to come in and start using whatever we can to calm those behaviors down. Um, it could be anything from, they have sleep disturbances, of course, they have appetite disturbance, changes. So any one of those behaviors, they can even have psychosis. I mean, there's just so many, it just, the list can go on and on depending on how it progresses. So, and then talking about what you were just talking about for Ben and the CBG, just to give another example, with the healer product, CBG and THC is used at night. But because it works so well with Ben, he's actually using CBG during the day. So
Yeah,
that's
the same
another, yeah,
thing. Yeah, all day
yeah,
long, just slightly different dose during the day. It's
exactly.
great.
It,
Yeah.
it's been great because CBG, cannabidiol, is great for mood. And it really, some people just really react well with it. So that's why I do not think that these parts of the plant are only for different times, or you can only use them one time a day, because you can use them all day long to keep your loved one, like you said, chill. And then at night, you add in a little bit more THC, and then now they're going into a more restful sleep.
Yeah, it's been incredible, and I mean, we give it to him. I think it ends up being like 4 times a day,
Hmm.
and so and what's and it falls out with a pretty regular schedule. He doesn't wake up always at the exact same time, but I find during the day it kind of hits at about the same points, like around 10 in the morning and then 3 in the afternoon. And one of the things that I think we do, I want to be very careful of is that I don't give it any less than 4 hours apart. It's
Correct.
really for us, it's more like 5 to 6 hours apart. So I think, they said we want to be careful about that dosage interval. But, but yes, I mean, giving it multiple times a day, I mean, for Ben, it really just helps him to stay a lot more even. And I haven't seen any of the aggression that I experienced the first 2 years, which was actually rather nightmarish. Um, which brings me to another point. Uh, if you are early in the journey with your loved one, I would suggest, and I want your take on this, Catherine, you might want to consider these products before pharmaceuticals. Ben is on a pharmaceutical that I've actually been trying to wean him off of, as you know.
Hmm.
It's an antipsychotic, and it's part of what they often use kind of off label, for those suffering from dementia. And I understand why he was placed on it, but it's like now I can't get him off it. Whereas if you started with something like again, I say plant medicine, there's then you've got a long way to go, in terms of the dosage that you can use, right, of the hemp-based products. And then you've got the whole pharmaceutical world on top of it. But what are your thoughts about, if somebody is just starting down this journey, what would you think about them, starting with these products before pharmaceuticals?
Well, I have to admit, I'm definitely a big advocate for having cannabis as a first line medicine than a last line medicine, which is what it is now. Due to the safety profile. I mean, the reason why we all advocate it as first line, one of the first things you use versus last, is because of the safety. So there's very few receptors in the brainstem. You don't have cardiac arrest, respiratory depression that you could have with other pharmaceuticals. And even the FDA, I think it was back, I want to say 2003, 2005, there's a study, there's something they published that said that the antipsychotics, weren't really helpful for the dementia behaviors, but yet it's widely prescribed. And they have black box warnings on some of the antipsychotics that say sudden death is possible, respiratory depression, seizures, stroke. So here you have a choice, right? You have a choice. Do I do this black box warning drug as the first drug that I use? That's, as you know, we've been working a long time, and you working with doctors to try to
Yeah.
wean that, which is so difficult. Or do you choose, like you say, the plant medicine that has this huge safety profile that you have a long runway with different parts of the plant to introduce, different doses, just different combinations that can't cause those same black warnings. So, it's always up to you as a caregiver and to decide. So it's just something that us as nurses like to inform the patients. Hey, you're supposed to have a consent. You're supposed the physician who is the prescriber for these black box warning drugs is supposed to be asking for your consent because then you know that this can cause sudden death for your loved one. So
I think
when they're yeah, I know. Very few people know that, but that's what that black box warning means. So it's interesting because now that people are starting to become aware when they're sitting down with you saying, okay, we're going to put your loved one on this black box warning drug, then you can think about it and say, well, maybe I want to try this other route first. Let's see if it works or it doesn't.
yeah,
And then if we need to, those should be the last line
yeah.
drugs.
I
So,
mean, and I used to work for a big pharmaceutical company, so please, everybody, we're not dissing, the pharmaceutical.
right.
There's a place for them, of course. It's just that, as I said, the safety profile and the effectiveness of the plant-based medicine is just so gratifying to
Mhm.
see. So, and I do want to, again, you can get in touch with Catherine directly, her organization, leaf411.org. I'm going to send out the phone number, but also you can go to the Healer CBD site. They're picking up the donation cost for Catherine's organization. So I do want to give a shout out to that company because the products are doctor formulated. They've done clinical trials in patients living with dementia. So specifically have come up with formulations for those dementia related behaviors. And I would say I didn't even know about the CBG,
Mhm.
until I started to work with Catherine's organization and with Healer. So for that, I am deeply grateful because that was the game changer. It seemed like for us, it was the combination of the CBG and THC that worked so well for us. But everybody's different. So please, again, getting that consult, starting with some guidance from Catherine's organization, and they can call you back, right? I was going to say if they're
Yes.
not getting results or they have any questions, right? They can call you back and schedule another consult because that gives you some information to work with, right?
Yes, it does. So they can always call us back. Healer is a fantastic company because they care about their customer. So anyone who purchases their product, they cover the first call with them and two follow-up calls, which is fantastic. And that's usually all we need because we ask, like, we would love to hear from you in a week. Tell us how you're doing. Even if it's great, even if it's good news, we want to hear
Yeah.
that because that's important data that we need. So we know and we can pass it along to the healer company that, hey, here are the challenges people are having, or here are the successes. And they want to hear both what's working, what's not. So anybody can reach us there that are really interested in trying some of these products. And also, like you were saying before, there are many ways you can introduce cannabis. It doesn't have to be the healer products. It could be a combination of products that you find, or say you only want to purchase from a dispensary. Great. You can call Leaf. You can schedule an appointment with us. We have that access just directly with us. You don't have to go to healer. You can come straight to us, and then we can guide you. The only disappointment sometimes is dispensaries don't really carry the minor parts of the plant
That's right.
because they didn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
they
get
don't
this.
see it as profitable enough right now. Hopefully, they're going to start learning
Right,
that, but they don't see it as something that's important to carry on the store shelves, because it's a minor part of the plant.
right.
And but we're seeing so much promise with it, and so many benefits that it's good that these reputable companies that you can actually get online, like Healer, can just ship it to you, and then you can introduce it to either cannabis you already have, or if you want to introduce it with a dispensary product. It all depends on what your loved one's presenting, and then that's why you can come to us to get guidance on how to start incorporating this safely.
Yeah, and which actually brings me to another point, access, because I know we have international followers as well, and sometimes I feel badly because they'll say like, I can't get it here in the UK, or I can't get it here in South Africa. So, could you speak a little bit to that? I mean, I think, what are some of the options? I know, for instance, that the amount of THC that we use, I couldn't get shipped to us, from Healer, for instance. So I do get this from a local dispensary, and then I get the CBG from Healer. But how about like in other countries? I mean, what do you suggest for people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm seeing one here. Is your product available in Canada? So I just had a Canadian caller the other day, and anyone can reach out to Leaf 411, even if they already know, well, okay, I can't get the healer products, but I still want to talk to a nurse. Go right to leaf411.org. You can schedule an appointment with us. And then what we can help you do is find similar formulations at your local dispensary. Or, let us know where you're at and what's available to you. So that's what we like to know as well, because we've had callers, we've been in operation for 6 years now. So we've had callers from all over the world, like you said, South Africa, South America. We were having quite a few from France for a while. So all we need to know in that country, okay, what do you have access to? So tell me what you have access to, and then we can help guide you with the combination depending on the behavior that you're concerned about.
Okay.
And like you said in the beginning, we go with the top one.
Yeah.
Let's pick the number one behavior first, whether that's sleep, aggression, worry, anxiety, and then we can
Sundowning.
guide you
Yeah,
on,
that's
yeah.
that's great. Yeah, like you said, start with one and go from there, which is really helpful. The other thing too is, what have you seen over time? Because, for instance, I guess Ben has been on this combination since September, and at first, and you always want to see results right away. Like, you're kind of sitting here looking at it, going, "Oh, is it going to work? Is it going to work?" It took, and I do keep pretty good notes, but I would say it took a couple of weeks for him to get into this really regular rhythm, of sleep. Like it seemed to help right away, but I'm actually seeing improvement over time, so because it's been a couple months now. So can you speak a little bit to what we might be able to expect, like, over time?
Yeah. No, and that's what is really challenging when you're a home caregiver, because I tell the people I talk to, look, you're living it day to day. So when it's hard, when you start giving, say, a small dose and you're thinking, oh, this is great, it's working. And then one night it didn't work. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to change the dose. And we're like, no, 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 you got to wait, you got to wait, because that's what's hard about it. I always say, let it rear its head. Let's give it some time and let it show its face and tell us what it's going to do in this person's body. Sometimes that can take, with a very advanced age, it can take a week, 2 weeks, like you're seeing, for things to really start showing. Some people even need a month, on a certain dose to really see what truly is going to happen. Because it changes. It depends on how much your loved one's eating. Cannabis is, fat soluble molecule, it loves fat. So you always want to take cannabis with food. But what happens, like I had someone last night who said, I can't get them to eat at all.
Yeah.
They're just zero appetite. And I saw somebody actually ask a question about appetite. What's really wonderful is THC stimulates appetite. So, it's like, okay, let's do whatever we can. So even if they're not eating, let's see if we can get that THC in them. Let's see if we can get that however you can. And that's the beauty of looking at different types of products.
Right.
Because with, like you're saying, Ben likes like, ooh, yum, this is good. I've had some that look at the gummy and say, this is the loved one will say they think it's a candy and they
Yeah.
love it. They
Yeah.
want to take it all the time.
Right.
So that's the beauty of having different types of products, and it's just not a pill that you're saying, here, please take
Like
this.
a pill.
Yeah.
Right. And there's
Hmm.
patches, as I said, there's the tinctures, which are a liquid you could technically put into
Hmm.
something, and I was going to say, I think my favorite thing was to give Ben some peanut butter, with or so, or a smoothie with some avocado in it, or something. So there's lots of ways that you can dispense these products. And I'm sure, as I said, that you'll guide
Hmm.
individuals as well in terms of how do I get it into my loved one, So I
Yes.
don't have any problem with Ben. I mean, now he's eating even more. I could say but that's fine. I'll take it. It's I will. I'm grateful for that. Let's turn our attention a little bit to the caregiver
Hmm.
because I know for myself that as I said, I grew up in the '70s. I wasn't afraid to use THC. I certainly have enjoyed it over time. But once I became a caregiver, it was like, wow, I can't afford to not be on my best game at all time. But I wasn't sleeping really well. So can you speak a little bit to and then I'll certainly share, what I've been doing, but to share what you can do for caregivers who say like, wow, I'm not sleeping, or like I finally get in bed and I'm tossing and turning, or my mind's whirling, or I wake
Hmm.
up 20 times during the
Right.
night. So,
Right. Yeah. And these are a lot of questions that we get. So, what's interesting to remember is that the cannabis isn't specifically dementia product. I had one that said, oh, I can't use that product. I don't have dementia. And I said, no, 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 it's not specifically for dementia patients. What it is it depends on the behaviors or symptoms you're exhibiting. So if your loved one is struggling with sleeplessness, but so are you, then it would make perfect sense that, oh, I could probably take that as well. What we do, especially making sure that you start with those low dose products, is you want to avoid impairment. So, and you do that by starting with some of these real dose products. Like I've had lots of caregivers that said, well, I'm only giving my loved one maybe, half a gummy, with the respite product, I'm going to have a lot left over. What do I do with this? I said, well, you can actually take it for your sleep. The combination of CBG and THC, that's the night formula, gosh, would be wonderful for the caregiver. And then because they're so low doses, there's little to no impairment at all. It's just the sedation. So now the caregiver is starting to get better sleep as well. So yes, you can, you try to not think of it so much boxed in this little dementia box, but actually as a symptom box. Okay, my loved one's got aches and pains. I have aches and pains. Maybe that would work for me, and I can start really low too. I actually think it's good for a loved one to try a little piece because they don't know what they're giving their,
I've done that too.
the care.
Bad
Yeah.
of what I was, like I said, I'm going to dose Ben. I want to know what it's like, So yeah, I took a little piece myself early on, and again, just to like you said, like these are packaged specifically for the caregiver for their loved one. But like you said, it doesn't mean you can't take them too. And they do come. I didn't grab my jar, but I do take the rest gummies from Healer because again, it's that combination of the THC and CBG. And you were the one who said, because when I first took some, I'm like, wow, it didn't do anything at all. And you said, go even lower for 3 days to prime your receptors. So I took a quarter of a gummy, cut it in half, cut it in half again for 3 days. And then I think I took a half the fourth day. And I did work my way up to three quarters of a gummy. So
Hmm.
that's a perfect amount for me. A whole one's a little too much, but three quarters is perfect. It's just, and I take it an hour before I'm ready to go to bed. And I do take it with, sometimes I'll grab one of the Reese's peanut butter cups.
Right.
Use for some candy. so, and I take the gummy with that, and it's just right. And I sleep. What's so great is I fall asleep and I stay asleep. Like even if I get up to go to the bathroom, I can go back to sleep. I mean, it's amazing for me to be able to, sleep. Like, I mean, yeah, I still wake up early, but I mean, the fact that I'm actually getting a more restful night's sleep,
Hmm.
what has really, really helped a lot. It's helped my outlook on life. I mean, my gosh, it helps my energy levels. I mean, it's quite incredible to say I don't feel exhausted, but I don't.
That's good.
It's like, yeah, yeah. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so highly, yeah,
And talking about, how you started trialing it for yourself is exactly what some of your community, questions like, because somebody might take it and say, I felt a little weird on this, or this, this half a gummy or this full gummy, you know, I think it was like you didn't really sleep, but you felt a little funny on it. And that's when I said, well, let's go down lower.
yeah,
Let's go back down lower and let's try that for 3 days and then come up again slowly. And that's what you needed. So when someone's saying, gosh, I took a dose and I didn't really work that well, remember there's always room that you can, oh, let's go a little bit lower then. Let's get our bodies, used to it, the
yeah,
feeling and introducing it, and then, slowly increase up. And that's where we can help you with guidance. And like you said, you can cut. What's beautiful about gummies, and I love gummies, especially for the older
yeah,
adult, because
yeah,
the tinctures are really sometimes with uh, really hard to open, and then you have to look at the little lines on the
yeah,
we call it a pipette, yeah, and a dropper. Those are
yeah.
can be tough for some people. So gummies sometimes are an easy place to start because you can take that gummy and you can cut it into half,
Or
fours. I've even had people cut it
eighths.
in
Yeah,
eighths.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
Yep.
because they're kind of the healer ones are a nice
Hmm.
size and they're square. I mean, it's so funny that I mean that's why again I do appreciate the healer products because of the fact that they're doctor formulated and are really have the caregiver and the loved one in mind. To
Hmm.
make it really easy because I got some others offline but they were this really strange shape. So when I would cut them in half, it wasn't even.
Hmm.
And then I was giving for one time and not the other. So these seem like little things. And again, there's plenty of places to get these products. So we're not trying to push it, but I've had such good success with the Healer products and I'm very grateful. So if you do go to the Healer CBD site, you can book a consult, that way, or go in to leaf411.org. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
two ways into Catherine's organization, and it's been so helpful.
Well, thank you.
Catherine, are there any other questions that have come up on your side? I actually haven't. I don't see them on my side. It's the strangest thing. I don't see the questions coming up. Were there any others that you saw? Because I do want to leave a few minutes for that. If anybody,
Yeah,
a
there
burning.
was there was a question, gosh, it was a little bit ago about, I want to say, what if somebody has nightmares? It was something in nightmares.
Okay.
And so they were asking about that. So, that at night they have nightmares and maybe it was agitation or something. So what happens at night is sometimes our mind is overactive. And what we need to do, even without being in having any kind of condition, we just have this chatty mind. So what's been really great is taking something that calms that down. And that's why even CBD during the day, taking it during the day will really actually affect you at night because it's kept that mind chatter down and then you can fall asleep even easier. And that's what CBG also helps do. It really helps with the THC to provide that sedation, but also provide that relaxation. And then I think you can help with those nightmares. It would be a great place to start. Actually, THC there's so much evidence for PTSD, and those are the patients that have the worst nightmares, and THC helps you forget. And so that's the beautiful thing. So there's always, challenges with everything. When someone's consuming too much THC,
Yeah.
they can, have less short-term memory. It's very temporary, but it's in the evidence. So you have to be cautious with that with chronic heavy use. Okay, that's chronic heavy use. We're not talking about what patients use or what, anyone uses, especially for dementia care. But what's really great is that we know the evidence that what THC can do is help that mind forget,
Yeah.
even if it's temporarily. So for nightmares, I think that whoever was asking that, yes, that would be something to explore. And that's why Dr. Dustin Sulak, in his practice, he's made these formulations because this is what he's seen has worked best with the patients, the dementia patients that he's seen.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a combination for night, this is a combination for day, but also, even if someone, we were just talking about this today, saying, even if someone says, gosh, my loved one doesn't have problems during the day, just at night, should I even take the day
Right.
formula?
Right.
Yes, it would be great because there's
Yeah.
that CBD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to help to just kind of even them out and go into it. And I think because like we're whole people, right? It's like
Mhm.
you said, thinking a bit holistically, in terms of, because we can't all of a sudden just turn it off at night, as you said. Like, I wish we could, but yeah, having that flow, through the day. So this has been really, as always, so helpful, Katherine. I really appreciate it. And I just want everybody to know that I'm going to send out a link to this live event in case you missed the beginning, as well as the contact information for Katherine's organization, leaf411.org. And I'll include the phone number to get in touch with them directly. And I'll also include the link for the healer site. You can get them in, a package that makes it so easy for the caregiver. But there's other, they have other products. As I said, I personally get a tincture that I combine with one that I get from a local dispensary. So every individual is a little bit different, but that's exactly why the guidance from Katherine's organization is so helpful. Don't go this alone. Like we need help as caregivers. So take advantage of the help that this wonderful organization and Katherine is offering. So I thank you so much, Katherine. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else that we want to, any other message that we want to send to our community here?
Yeah, I say, you're not alone. And that's what I tell every caller. You're not alone. There's resources here to help you. This is the time as the caregiver to ask for help. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And I've been a nurse in traditional medicine for 28 years, and in cannabis therapeutics for 8 now. Gosh, the years are
Yeah,
flying by.
just gonna
And
say, I have to update your
yeah.
bio.
I know, but that it's just time's flying, and and that's one thing. Even when I worked on the floor, I would always tell patients, use your resources. They're here for you. You just have to ask for them, and so that's what I want to tell all the caregivers at home. We looked at I forgot what it is. Typically the average amount of dementia care is in the home is about 75%,
Wow.
because either that loved one has promised not to send their loved one to a facility, or it's not affordable
Yeah.
because they are very expensive. So they have to keep them at home. That's a lot of heavy weight on your shoulders as a caregiver. So let's reach out for help. Use services. With us on our calls, we ask for a donation, but if you can't, that donation is not something you can do, no problem. We turn no one away. You call us, you tell us, hey, I need a free call. And we say, absolutely. That's why I built it as a nonprofit, because I wanted to make sure, I really believe everyone should have a nurse in their back pocket that you
Yes.
could just pull out at any age and just say, hey, do I need to go to the doctors for this? Or,
Yeah.
anything, any question you have, obviously I'm very biased. I love the nursing career. That's my heart and soul. But I just want your audience to know that there's help for you out there. Just got to ask us, come find us.
And one thing before we wind up, they can also ask you about other products. I was going to say one of the things that um, you know we have here in our home, for instance, are what we call emergency medicine, like um, Ativan. Ben is extremely sensitive to it. I don't like to use it often, but there are times, when he gets what I call the zoomies, where he's kind of at risk for like running into a wall and falling. And so I do give a couple of drops of Ativan, and I continue, of course, to give him these other products, but sometimes I need something that's
Hmm.
going to help him like right away. And they can ask some questions about that too, right? And make sure that whatever
Absolutely.
they have on board or they want to get on board can be used safely together, with plant medicine, or, just as I said, they can call you and just talk about that as an option. Like, what do I do? I'm using this, but like, he's still agitated, or he's still up all night, or, she's still, not eating or whatever. So there are other questions that they can ask you about having some of those other medications on board, right?
Yes, and that's the beautiful part of us all having traditional healthcare, experience, and um, because we can come to the table saying, and I'll give you an example. Someone was taking their loved one to have surgery, and they said, and you have to be careful with surgeries. The anesthesiologist does not want THC on board. They want you to have stopped, days, if not a week prior. It's very important to them. And so they said, I don't know what to do because I can't get them in the car to get there. And I said, well, call your primary doctor and ask for a sedative. It's so pharmaceuticals, like you were saying in the beginning, there is a place for them. And, cannabis isn't your answer for everything, but when you need something suddenly, and I had another caregiver who, unfortunately had to have, phone with her, 911 ready to call in the middle of the night in case her loved one became abusive, and instead of having that fear every night, if that's coming, you should have something stronger, something ready, and call your primaries and ask, say, can I have some type of small amount of Ativan or something that and they've taught you how to use safely and effectively, that you can have, I say, as the safety toolbox
Yeah.
for when it's in the middle of the night and you don't know who to call and where to go, but you're in trouble, and you can get a drop in them or something like that. I say always have your cannabis gummies ready,
Yep.
even a quarter by the bedside just in case, that you need to say, hey, take this, I see you're getting a little agitated,
Yeah.
and that's okay. So you always want to have your little toolbox ready for you, so that way because you have to be safe as a caregiver as well,
Yeah.
and keep them safe. So yeah, we can talk about traditional medicine all day long. That's our heart and soul too, and also how you use cannabis safely.
Yes, thank you so much. Again, it just helps all of our nervous systems to have like that rippling effect, like, ooh, I got some help, So
Yes.
once again, I've been here with Katherine Golden from leaf411.org. We're so grateful for your expertise and your love and your guidance. And if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please do so at dementiacoachdiane.com. I'm going to be sending out, I'll wait a couple days, but I'll send out the information to get in touch with Catherine's organization. Also, the Healer brand, which is one way to go in terms of getting these products. And also, I'll send out the link to this live. So it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Diane.
Happy
Bye, everyone.